Nick Jackson versus Bryan Danielson.
Dude.
I hope that Bryan Danielson gets a chance to go one-on-one with every single person in the Elite, because he will have banger matches with Matt Jackson. He'll have a banger match with Adam Cole. I would, Carl Anderson.
Have him fight Nakazawa and Brandon Cutler 2-on-1.
Sure.
2-on-1
I'm
match.
all for it.
Great.
I'm all for it, man. But, man, I think, coming off the heels of, as some would say, one of the match of the years that we saw as well, with Kenny Omega, obviously, and Bryan Danielson. I'm pulling a crayfish there.
Daniel Bryanson.
I think this one, it started slow a little bit, and then boom, man, this thing was on fire. All the great holds that Bryan Danielson was hitting, chop kick combo is pure money in my opinion. I love that he's bringing this into his arsenal. Next match he's doing, I'm going to count how many kicks that Bryan Danielson gets, because he throws probably like 30 plus kicks a match, and they're absolutely brutal. And I loved how he was like essentially hulking up and just like not leaning into those kicks from Nick Jackson. Man, but I think Bryan Danielson looked like $1 million in this match. Very innovative, and his offense was great. And he had some great counters, and so did Nick Jackson. He had some awesome counters to a lot of the offensive moves that Bryan Danielson was doing. Especially, I love that Escalera that Nick Jackson did. It was incredible off the top rope. That high spot that those Jacksons can do is just, insane. And then shortly after, we followed up with a massive kick to Cutler Stooge's face, which was absolutely brutal. It made Taz mark out, which I thought was absolutely hilarious. Taz was cracking up on that as well. But, this, like I said, I want to see Matt Jackson go now to the toe-to-toe, because, as the Young Bucks are very similar with their offense, but
No, he's gone.
It's a totally different match.
Oh, we lost you in the middle of the epic
soliloquy.
And honestly, you're right. I mean, Matt Jackson and Nick Jackson, we get your point. Exactly what you're saying. Yeah. Matt Jackson and Nick Jackson, their offense is so similar as brothers, but they're so different in the way they tell stories in the ring. Yeah. And it could be a very different matchup. I know that there are those people out there who are huge Nick Jackson marks, and I tend to be more on the Matt Jackson side. And that's no different than a Jeff Hardy, Matt Hardy. I mean, there's so many where Edge and Christian, all the iconic duos, you always have those where it splits, and that's because they're both great. Yeah. And I agree with you, SPD. I want to see Bryan Danielson go against Matt next, and I want to see Bryan Danielson. You know what, dude? I would even love to see Bryan Danielson go against the Good Brothers. Bring me Bryan Danielson against Big Luke, baby. Let's do it. Why not?
Oh, that's dude, right. Yeah. That'd be so. I wanted him to go through every single one systematically and then get his match with Kenny. That's what I want. I want him to just go through all of the Elite and just say, you know what? This is what the labors of Jericho could have been. I'm going to go through the labors of the Elite.
The 7 layers of the Elite.
Yeah, the 7 labors of the Elite. And it's going to be their labors because he's going to beat the hell out of all of them and then get up on Kenny. So it's going to be their labor. It's going to be
and how
a nightmare.
Great is that too, Bob? Yeah. Like where it's like, from the get-go, he's called Kenny out for hiding behind all his stooges. So then he goes and he kicks all their asses, makes them tap out, and then he goes against
no balls. Kenny, no balls.
You're doing it at home. I mean, you're right, man. I think like Bonds, the Elite, they've been on top in AEW throughout this this Kenny Omega World Champion,
the era of Kenny
and Young Bucks tag belts, great run.
The Good Brothers have been the Impact champs. Like,
it's been great.
All these belts, but again, there's always got to be a David for every Goliath.
Amen.
And
that's true.
And we have our David now because
beautiful.
Bryan Danielson took Kenny to the edge. He had a great match with Nick Jackson. We got to give props to Nick. That was a great match tonight. I loved it. Yep. Perfect way to open the show. I think one thing we noticed from this match, guys, is the main event seems to be the opening match. And they just go and just say, man, like you guys coming from this other show, we're going to give you guys something awesome to start off ours. So I love that. I love that we get to see the best right away. We get to enjoy it. And the good thing about Rampage too which I really enjoy, is that they really keep that pace up that whole time. Once you get that pace going, that hype, and that thing just goes, it hits you through the whole show because it's only an hour. It feels so quick. And there's usually just a lot of matches, very few promos. But, man, this match, just to kick it off, had me hyped the whole time. Because, again, I'm a huge Nick Jackson slappy. I'm like one of those people you said. I like both of them, but I love the way Nick can just do some funny stuff when he's by himself. I feel like he lets himself be a little funnier when he's by himself because he's able to be more of the focus. I think that when it's both of them like together, they kind of both do their own thing and it's a lot of fun. But I like when they put the focus on Nick because he's just so weird and funny. Like he had this stupid dyed beard and just looked hilarious. And just man, like he plays that character so well. He's got like the dyed auburn hair and just looks hilarious. And he's going against Danielson, and it's just like he's holding his own. He's this goofball who can also go in the ring with the best in the world, in like the best pure wrestler in the world. Maybe outside of Kenny Omega, maybe maybe a little higher than Kenny. Who knows? We haven't seen enough of it yet. We only had a 30-minute match. We need a 60-minute match to know what's going on. So I don't know.
What do you guys think? How that ended with the double tap out with Adam Cole and Kenny Omega tapping out?
It was a declarative moment. Another one. Yeah. We got a lot of that on Rampage tonight. We got a lot of those moments where we got to see like Jade have her biggest win of her career.
Sure.
And then we got to see this before that, which was crazy. Adam Cole's a big hot free agent signing and he's tapping out in the ring. And man, like to Jungle Boy too, that's another feud that is going to hopefully continue to bud and get better because man, like those guys can go. And that match was fantastic on Dynamite. So we're just getting all these
visual at the end. Both guys face to face tapping out.
Yeah. And that's what's going to be the ultimate end of the Elite because they need to get put in their place at some point. And I feel bad for Adam Cole because he just kind of joined this whole thing as that ship might be going down. He might have just got on the sinking Titanic right before they hit an iceberg. It's just super unfortunate. I feel bad for the guy.
With the Elite being so strong in numbers, do you see someone else helping out that team of what we're seeing? Jurassic Express, Christian Cage, the Elite Hunter, and Bryan Danielson. Do you think someone else could join to kind of help them out, or do you think they need anyone? Because clearly, they're picking up some wins here and there, but ultimately, power and numbers wins when you have the Stooges and the Carl Andersons and all those additional guys that are part of the Elite. Do you want to see someone, or do you think someone comes back? I know I've kind of predicted maybe Hangman kind of like being that end-all savior that could dethrone Kenny, we heard the CM Punk chants deafening the crowd on Wednesday night Dynamite with when Kenny Omega was on the mic. So what do you think? What do you think happens?
Man, I don't know if they need to add anybody. I like the star power they have. I don't know if they need to muddy the waters by adding more talent. I mean, you've got people like Jungle Boy already involved in this. You've got Bryan Danielson. You've got Christian involved in this. You've got a lot of big names. You got Frankie Kazarian. You've got Luchasaurus, Marco Stunt. You got these guys already in this match. But Marco's involved, man. He's in Jurassic Express. You got to have I would love to see that kind of match. That'd be super fun to have him in there with those guys. I could see him doing some really funny spots with a guy like Carl Anderson, or even you have like Knack in there, and you could do some really fun stuff with those guys. Yeah, I think that would be great. Or even Brandon Cutler comes back. I think that'd be fantastic. So I don't know if you need to add anybody else in this match that's going to happen because man, it's got so much star power already. You look at the Elite; those guys are all elite for a reason. And then we got the good guys that are all also these top tier performers that have been around and everybody respects them and thinks they're fantastic. One of the pillars that MJF mentioned on Dynamite is in this feud. Like that's awesome. And we're going to see, hopefully we see that big blow up and we're just going to get all these crazy matches. I want to see it go for a little bit longer right before we get the Adam Page come back and steal that gold off Kenny. That's the end game, but we want to see this first. And maybe we'll see that with something we talk about in a little bit because there is a Joker in the match that's going to be on Wednesday. So who knows who's going to be there?
That is true.
We kind of have the 6 already.
I didn't even think of that.
Yeah.
But Crayfish,
we might be adding somebody.
Going to be there to help out? Do you think like this feud will go long enough for the Elite to kind of start picking up wins and kind of, the good guys getting beat up, and they needing assistance? Do you think it'll be stretched out that long? Or do you see kind of right away the good guys triumphing over the Elite?
Well, I mean, I think Bonds raised a lot of great points in his counter to your question. I think that I know you laugh, but I think Marco Stunt against Brandon Cutler would be really funny. I think that Marco Stunt against Nakazawa would be really funny. I think there is something there, and I think that you're starting to see clear like pairings come up in this battle where you see Bryan Danielson and Kenny, you see Jungle Boy and Adam Cole. There are clear like parallels starting to happen in this feud that are working. The missing link there is I would love to see a tag team maybe emerge or something that would happen with Young Bucks and Good Brothers. But I view things very differently than you guys, and maybe it's the inner heel in me, but my mind doesn't really think about who's going to join the good guys. My mind is thinking about what's going to happen to the Elite. And, I'm just fantasy booking things, but I go back to when Don Callis came into the fold and how he kind of, with Kenny and the Young Bucks and the drama that was going on between them and how Don slapped them in the face to get them to wake up and join Kenny. I think Adam Cole.
That was a brutal slap.
I think Adam Cole. You guys, Bonds joked about Adam Cole joining a sinking ship. I sometimes have a hard time with Bryan Danielson versus Daniel Bryan because I don't stop watching wrestling. I've always watched wrestling.
You didn't have that break.
I never have had a break in my life. And Adam Cole, I've seen what he does. He's a part of great rising of groups, but he's also a catalyst in their fall because ultimately he's about himself. And I could see him undermining Kenny, and I could see the super click with Adam Cole and the Bucks eventually splitting and having a war with Kenny and the Good Brothers. And
wow.
Kind of like what we saw with NWO, where you saw the New World Order break up into the Wolf Pack. And they ended up being rivals. And I think, again, I know I'm a heel, so I automatically, my mind thinks about the heels. But I could see that eventually happening where, we've talked about what happens to the Elite when they lose their titles and they're no longer Elite. Well, now Kenny's really the only one that's really holding on to a lot of that relevance for that group. And I know the Good Brothers have won and lost those Impact Tag Team titles so many times I can't count. But Kenny really is holding on to that right now while the Bucks have lost their belts. And I think that there could be some inner turmoil that could happen as Bryan Danielson runs through the group. And as this babyface collective, we've seen other groups try. My guy Pac has been part of those groups that have tried to take down the Elite.
Right.
But maybe it's what happens from who they allow in. How many times have you said, SPD, ships don't sink because of the crazy tide around them? They sink because of the water that comes in them. And maybe the Elite sink because they allowed the ultimate scumbag. I know, guys, Adam Cole is the hot name right now, but if you don't follow his career, then you don't realize what an absolute scumbag this guy is in the business. You got a taste of it when he kicked.
You want a taste?
He grabbed Aubrey and kicked at Jungle Boy in the nuts to win an epic match. He's willing to stoop to any low to win, and I think that he's shown he's willing to stab his own friends in the back. And it's kind of funny that Bobby Fish is going to be challenging Sammy Guevara for the TNT title because that's a guy who could testify to what I'm saying. Bobby and firsthand gotten just absolutely stabbed in the back by Adam Cole.
Maybe he joins the good guy team.
Hey, maybe.
That would actually be kind of cool.
He has a bone to pick with Adam Cole. That's for damn sure. SPD loves that one, dude. It's a banger.
That's a great song, man. It's making me so it's kind of cool. Like obviously I didn't follow Adam Cole that much more before this.
It's okay.
But his theme song is making me like him more and more because his theme song is so cool. If that's possible. I mean, I'm sure you guys have done that too. Like, this person, I don't really care for their character or what they're doing, but their theme song is making me grow on them, for sure. And that is a prime example that's making me skyrocket to be a fan of him. But you're talking about what seems like two alpha males in a group, like you compare it to NWO is great stuff. And for them to separate and form two groups, I think that's such a smart booking on that. And even if Kenny could play into it, if they do start to butt heads, like if he's holding that title and like they have gold and they don't, and then Young Bucks can challenge for the Impact titles too eventually or something like that. So that's great because as of now, we're not seeing a true tag team feuding with the Young Bucks right now. So that would make a lot of sense. You're onto something there. I definitely think you're
imagine
onto
Bonds. Imagine. I mean, I know you're a fan of the Bucks. Their history with Impact Wrestling.
I like it.
How cool would it be if they challenged the Good Brothers for the Impact Tag Team Championships one day? I mean, that would be really cool to me.